So the third prerequisite would be capacity and coverage requirements. Okay, so when you are about to start a Wi-Fi site survey and you're doing this briefing session with the customer, they would have shared a floor plan with you, like a blueprint of the whole building or a floor, whichever you're trying to target for your Wi-Fi site survey. Take a printout of that floor plan, take it in an A3 sheet, and sit with it with the customer. Sit next to him, talk to him about where exactly you need RF coverage. Okay, understand what are the areas where you don't need a coverage. I mean, the moment you ask this question to the customer where you need the RF coverage, the answer is going to be everywhere. That's what he's going to say the first time. You probe him more, understand if you need coverage in the staircase, if you need coverage in the washrooms, if you need coverage anywhere specific, just like the maybe the electric rooms in the on the floor. So just check with him, or if he needs coverage, in the small outdoor area of the office. So you need to ask all these questions, because at the end of the day, when you do a Wi-Fi site survey, and if you're able to not put APs in stairs, washrooms, electric rooms, and outdoor areas, then you're probably saving him a lot of money, right, and your time. So that's going to be helpful, and for sure you need to sit with him with the floor plan. I usually take a printout on the A3 sheet. It's a bigger than A4 sheet, so it helps me understand and mark things on the paper with the pen, where he needs more coverage, where he needs less, where there's no need of a coverage. So there's not going to be any clients there, so you need to ask these questions to him, and then proceed from there. The next thing is that you of course have to ask not just coverage, but also understand in which areas you need more capacity, which means kind of like user density. Okay, as to which area has more user. Let's say it's a conference room, he has, even though that has a capacity of 10 people, but sometimes you would expect the whole team gathering into the conference room and doing a conference somewhere. So that is something which you need to know, which areas to target for higher density, which areas to target for lower density, which are areas where you don't expect people to be gathering at all. So these kind of questions you need to ask him. You need to also ask him about data application. So people on the ground in the office, are they using data applications, or they're also using voice over Wi-Fi, right? Because if they're using data, then I can plan accordingly, because I would say on an AP, if everybody is using data, I can have at least 40-45 clients per AP, and I should be good. But if you're using voice over Wi-Fi, voice calls happening or video calls happening, I don't want to go beyond 15 or maximum 20 clients. I mean, I would not even like to test that 20. I would say voice calls back to back, 15 clients, more than enough. So you need to understand this data application or voice applications as to what they are trying to connect on. We can actually figure out another thing called the existing transmitters. You can figure out, let me write this down: existing transmitters. What this means is, you can actually ask them already existing Wi-Fi networks there are. Okay, or not just the Wi-Fi networks, but also the interference sources. Yeah, if there's any sort of a microwave around, or any sort of RF interferers around, which is microwave or cordless phones, or anything that gives out an RF signal, or creates a lot of noise in the network. So you need to ask all these questions to him, so that if he's aware, then you can put a note of that in your survey report, and then do the survey accordingly. Then another important thing that you can actually ask him is something called portability versus mobility. Okay, so there are two types of mobility, which is, one is portability, the other is true mobility, and I'm going to explain this with the help of an example. The first is related to being portable, and the other is the true mobility. Okay, just think of it this way: let's say a manager working on a presentation and saving it on a network share. He later wants to give the presentation in the boardroom. So what he does is he picks up his laptop, shuts the lid, and walks to the conference room, where he opens the laptop, connects to the Wi-Fi network, and starts giving the presentation. Right now, he may have been disconnected in between the points, and that is okay, because the moment he walked from his cubicle all the way to the boardroom, his laptop was shut, the work was saved. He did not need rail connectivity 100% of the times. That is called portability. Even though he was disconnected somewhere here, but the work was not affected. Now, true mobility is if a client walks from here all the way to the boardroom and he's on a voice call, right? In that scenario, he needs 100% Wi-Fi connectivity. Now, this is called true mobility. So we have to also ask the customer about these two things: true mobility and portability. Now, uh, in the networks nowadays, you expect customer to say that okay, I'm going to need mobility throughout, and that's okay because nowadays you expect, uh, you know, voice calls happening, Zoom calls happening, Teams calls happening, conferences happening, video calls happening throughout the office. So you do expect that, and that's okay. But it's always best to ask him and get an idea about what you're dealing with. So these few things, I think you need to keep in mind about capacity and coverage requirements. These things, if you have clear in the mind, then I think you will make an informed decision about what needs to be done in the site survey. These things will be in the mind, and you can actually design for how many number of APs per clients can stick to. There are also some vendors who say that the AP can support up to 256 clients per radio. That's good for data sheets, and that is absolutely right. So the radio can accept association requests for 256 clients, but it doesn't mean you're going to have 256 clients on the AP because of the shared medium, half duplex contention. That's going to really choke your bandwidth. So that's why it's always good that you make it clear to the customer that what you are going to be designing on, because if the customer is expecting you to put 100 AP 100 clients on an AP, then you need to tell him that there are issues which can creep up, there are issues which can be seen on the network. You need to educate him well. That's your job. So yeah, talk about these things beforehand so that the confusion doesn't arise later on. So be very clear about what it's going to look like, and what he can expect from the Wi-Fi. It's very important that you both are on the same page. Thank you.